Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked into a woman's eyes and wondered if, in that very moment, her body was secretly craving you? I'm not talking about polite smiles or casual chat. I mean those silent, fiery signals that say her desire is stronger than her words will ever admit. You see, women don't always come out and say what they're feeling, but their bodies, oh, their bodies tell stories, through glances, through touch, through the way they linger when they should have walked away. And when you know how to read those signs, you'll never again be left second, guessing whether she wants you. Tonight, I'm going to take you deep into those hidden messages, those subtle cues that whisper louder than any confession. This isn't just theory. It's raw, it's real, and I'll even share something personal along the way, a little secret I've never spoken about before. So lean in, keep your mind open, and let your curiosity guide you. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me till the very end. Attraction is not just about words, it's about signals. The female body communicates in whispers, not shouts. And when her body is craving your presence, it won't always be verbal, but the signs are there. You see, there's something fascinating about the human body. It never lies. Long before a person speaks, their body is already telling a story. And when it comes to attraction, the body's story becomes even more compelling. Have you ever been around a woman and felt like, somehow, she was pulling you in without saying a single word? Maybe you thought it was just in your head, but the truth is this: her body is a messenger. It sends signals that reveal far more than casual conversation ever could. Let me open a door for you. Imagine this: you're sitting with her at a cafe. Maybe the conversation is flowing. Maybe it's just a few simple exchanges about the day. But something feels different. She shifts in her chair, not randomly, but purposefully, as if her entire frame is aligning itself with yours. Her knees angle in your direction, her hips are no longer facing away, and suddenly, even though you haven't moved an inch closer, it feels like the space between you has somehow shrunk. That right there is the body whispering desire. Subtle hip movements and body positioning may seem small, but they're incredibly powerful. They are primal. Think about it. Long before humans learned to use words, we communicated through posture, touch, and energy. A woman's hips, whether she knows it or not, carry centuries of biological language. When she tilts them toward you, it's not just about comfort, it's about openness. It's her body unconsciously saying, "I am letting you in." Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. This kind of body language often goes unnoticed. Men might mistake it for coincidence or casual shifting, but women don't lean in, angle their bodies, or cross their legs toward just anyone. The direction of her hips, the way her torso aligns, it's a magnetic compass pointing to where her desire is being pulled. Picture this: you're both standing in a group of friends, laughter all around, conversations flying left and right. But her body, it keeps turning back to you. It's like no matter how many people are in that circle, her natural orientation is tethered to your presence. That's not by accident. There's a deeper story here too. Sometimes this physical positioning is not dramatic. It won't always look like she's leaning across the table or invading your space. Often, it's more delicate, a slight shift of the chair closer to yours. A subtle mirroring of how you're sitting. If you lean forward, she might lean forward too, just a breath behind your movement. If you cross one leg, she might adjust hers in sync, almost like a dance you didn't rehearse. This mirroring is one of the most ancient indicators of attraction. It's her subconscious saying, "We're in rhythm, we're connected." Let me tell you a story. A man once told me about an evening he spent at a dinner party. The food was good, the company was decent, but what stood out was this woman sitting across the table. He noticed something strange. Every time he leaned in to grab his drink, she leaned in too. Every time he shifted in his chair, she adjusted hers in the same direction. At first, he thought it was a coincidence, but by the end of the evening, he realized she had never once angled her body away from him. Even when she was speaking to others at the table, her frame, her torso, her very posture stayed open in his direction. Without saying a word, she had been communicating all night. "My attention is yours." Now, of course, we must balance this with wisdom. Not every hip movement, not every lean, is a sign of deep craving. Sometimes people are just comfortable, sometimes they shift for physical reasons, but when combined with other signals, lingering eye contact, playful touches, or a softened voice, that body positioning becomes undeniable. The hips don't lie, as the saying goes. They're a compass of attraction. Why does this matter? Because most people look for loud signals when the truth is found in whispers. If you wait for a woman to directly say, "I want you," you may never hear it. But her body will reveal it long before her lips ever do, and understanding this doesn't just make you a better observer, it makes you more respectful. You're no longer guessing blindly or pushing boundaries, you're learning to read what's already being offered, naturally and willingly. There's also something magical about how subtle it is. Think about the power of a slight lean, a simple alignment of the hips. It's almost secretive, like she's speaking a language only you are meant to understand. That's why paying attention matters. When you notice these shifts, it creates a deeper awareness of connection. You're not just in her presence, you're tuned into her frequency. And here's the beauty of it all. When her body positions itself toward you, it's not just about attraction, it's about safety and trust. A woman's subconscious is always calculating. Her body won't open itself up to someone she doesn't feel secure around. That turn of the hips, that lean closer, it's not just desire, it's her body's way of saying, "I feel safe enough to let you in." And that, perhaps, is the most powerful message of all. So next time you're with her, don't just listen to her words. Observe, notice how she sits when she's near you, notice how she angles herself in a crowded room, notice whether she leans in when you speak, whether her body seems magnetized by yours. These aren't coincidences. They're ancient biological unspoken signs that her body is craving your presence. And when you do recognize it, don't rush, don't assume, instead honor it. Because in that subtle movement, in that simple shift of the hips, is a story as old as humanity itself. Attraction doesn't need grand gestures. It speaks through whispers, through posture, through the quiet pull of bodies aligning. And if you can hear that story, if you can see those signals for what they are, then you will understand something most people miss. At the end of the day, the body doesn't fake what it craves. And when her hips, her torso, her very positioning all find their way toward you, it's because her body has chosen what her lips may not yet have said out loud. It's not just attraction, it's communication, and it's beautiful. Have you ever locked eyes with someone and for a moment the entire world seemed to pause? It's strange, isn't it, that something as simple as looking into another person's eyes can stir up so much emotion, so much electricity. But here's the thing most people don't realize. When a woman's eyes linger on you, when they soften, widen, or even darken slightly, it's not just a coincidence. It's biology, desire, and attraction working hand in hand. And if you know how to read it, you'll see that her eyes are revealing something her lips might never say out loud. Picture this. You're across the table from her, maybe at dinner, maybe just sharing coffee. The conversation is flowing, but suddenly you notice. Her gaze doesn't flinch. It doesn't dart around the room. It doesn't nervously drop to her phone. Instead, it lingers, steady and intentional. You feel it in your chest, that pull, that strange warmth that comes when someone is truly looking at you, not just through you. That's not small talk. That's attraction written in silence. The eyes are often called the windows to the soul, but in moments of desire, they become more than that. They're windows to chemistry. When a woman's pupils dilate while she's looking at you, that's her body's natural response to arousal. She can't control it. She doesn't decide it. It just happens. And the beauty of it is that it's completely involuntary. Her body is literally giving you away a secret. I'm drawn to you. Think back to a time when you've been in conversation with someone you found irresistible. Remember how it felt when they looked at you just a little too long, just a little too intensely. That flutter in your chest, that sudden need to catch your breath. That's the effect of eye contact. And when it's mutual, it creates an invisible current between two people. Let me tell you a story. A friend of mine once shared how he realized a woman was interested in him long before she ever admitted it. They were at a mutual friends gathering, surrounded by laughter and chatter. Every time he glanced in her direction, he caught her already looking at him. At first, he thought, maybe she's just scanning the room. But then he noticed the difference. Her gaze wasn't passive. It wasn't the casual glance you give to check your surroundings. It was focused. Her pupils were wide, her smile soft, her eyes holding his longer than necessary. And even when she looked away, there was that tiny delay, like she wanted to stay, but forced herself not to give too much away. That was the giveaway. Her body was betraying her secret. It was craving him. Now some people might say, but eye contact can mean many things. What if she's just being polite? And that's a fair question. But here's the distinction. Polite eye contact is brief, controlled, almost mechanical. Attraction, filled eye contact is warm, it lingers, it dances back and forth like a game of hide and seek. Sometimes she'll hold it, sometimes she'll look away quickly, but when she does, she'll come back again, almost like she can't help herself. That back and forth is the body's way of flirting without words. There's also a vulnerability in it. Think about how intimate eye contact really is. Most people avoid holding someone's gaze for too long. It feels exposing, like someone might see too much of who we are. So when a woman keeps her eyes on you, especially in moments of silence, it's because she's allowing herself to be seen. That vulnerability is a sign of trust, and trust is the foundation of attraction. Science backs this up too. Studies have shown that when people are attracted to someone, their pupils naturally dilate. It's the nervous system responding to desire. She cannot fake it, she cannot stage it. It's as real as a heartbeat. And once you notice it, you'll start to see it everywhere. That slight widening of her eyes when you walk into the room, the way they seem to sparkle when you speak, it's all part of the silent story her body is telling. But here's where the magic lies. Eye contact doesn't just reveal attraction, it also amplifies it. The longer two people hold each other's gaze, the stronger the connection becomes. That's why in movies, the most powerful romantic scenes are often silent. The lovers are just staring at each other, lost in a moment that words could never capture. In real life, it's the same. If she holds your gaze, if her pupils dilate, if her eyes keep coming back to yours even in a crowded space, that's not just a sign, it's an invitation. There's a subtle dance to it as well. Sometimes she won't hold your gaze because the intensity is too much. She'll look down, maybe bite her lip, maybe smile shyly, and then, almost inevitably, she'll look back up again. That cycle of meeting your eyes, breaking away, and returning is her subconscious saying, I'm intrigued, I'm drawn, I'm hooked. I remember a man once telling me about his first date with a woman who later became his partner. What stood out to him wasn't the food, the conversation, or even her laughter. It was her eyes. He said, she looked at me like I was the only person in the room. Even when she laughed at the waiter's joke, her eyes came back to mine. It was like a tether, that invisible string between two gazes, that's attraction in its purest form. But with great awareness comes great responsibility. Just because you notice these signs doesn't mean you rush in or make assumptions. Eye contact is intimate, but it's also sacred. If her gaze is telling you she's drawn to you, respect it. Let it be the beginning of a deeper connection, not just a cue for immediate action. Because when a woman looks at you with that kind of intensity, she's not just showing desire, she's showing trust. Attraction is a language, and the eyes are one of its most fluent speakers. When she lingers, when her pupils dilate, when her gaze softens but holds, she's telling you something powerful. I see you, I want you, I'm here with you. And that, more than any words, is a sign that her body, her very being, is craving you. So next time you're with her, don't just listen to what she says. Look into her eyes. Notice if they widen, if they linger, if they dart back to you again and again. Because the eyes, unlike words, never lie. And in their silence, they often shout the loudest. Have you ever noticed how powerful a simple touch can be? One gentle brush against your arm, one playful tap on your shoulder, and suddenly, it feels like electricity has passed through your body. Touch is one of the most underrated languages of attraction. And here's the thing. When a woman's body is craving you, she will often find subtle, almost invisible ways to close that gap, to reach across the invisible wall of space that usually separates two people. It's not always obvious, but once you learn to see it, you'll understand just how much she's saying without opening her mouth. Think about the last time someone touched you in a way that lingered. Not a handshake, not a polite pat on the back, but something small and almost secret. Maybe her hand rested on yours a moment longer than necessary. Maybe she leaned into you while laughing and didn't pull away as quickly as you expected. Did you feel that little spark, that warmth that stayed with you even after the touch was gone? That's not by accident, that's attraction in action. Let me paint you a picture. You're walking side by side with her down a busy street. It's crowded, people rushing past, but every now and then her hand grazes yours. Once you tell yourself it's nothing. Twice, maybe coincidence, but the third time, that's intention disguised as accident. It's her way of breaking that invisible barrier of distance and saying, I want to feel you close. Touch has always been a primal form of communication. Long before words, humans connected through physical contact. A mother's touch reassures a child, a friend's pat on the shoulder shows support, and a lover's hand lingering on your back speaks volumes. For women, especially, touch becomes an outlet for attraction they may not feel ready to put into words. Her fingertips become her voice, her gestures become her confession. I once heard a story from a man who had been unsure whether a woman he liked felt the same way about him. They spent time together, laughing, sharing meals, having conversations that stretched late into the night, but she never said anything directly. Then one evening, as they sat side by side on a couch, she reached out to adjust the sleeve of his shirt. Simple, innocent on the surface, but instead of pulling her hand away immediately, she let it linger, smoothing the fabric against his arm for a moment too long. He said in that instant, he felt everything click. That single touch told him what her words hadn't dared to say, that she was craving him. Now, it's important to notice how this kind of touch feels. Casual touch is quick, functional, polite. Attraction-filled touch lingers, it repeats, it carries warmth. When she brushes your arm while laughing, does she leave her hand there for just a second more? When she hands you something, do her fingers graze yours intentionally? Does she lean into you instead of away from you when the space gets tight? These are the moments to pay attention to, because her body is reaching out even when her mind is playing cautious. There's also an element of testing in this. Sometimes she'll touch you lightly to gauge your response. If you tense up, pull away, or act indifferent, she may retreat, thinking you're not open to it. But if you stay relaxed, if you respond with comfort and ease, she'll often grow bolder. That's because touch is not just about expressing attraction. It's also about building trust. When she touches you, she's asking a silent question, am I safe to be this close to you? And how you respond writes the answer. Science adds another layer here. When we experience touch from someone we're attracted to, our bodies release oxytocin, in the bonding hormone. This creates feelings of warmth, closeness, and emotional connection. So when her hand rests on yours, or when she playfully nudges your shoulder, it's not just physical, it's chemical. Her body is literally pulling her closer to you on a biological level. And the beauty of it, most of the time, she isn't even aware of it. It's unconscious. Her body is doing the talking, bypassing her mind, revealing what she might not yet be ready to confess aloud. That's why you'll often see women fidget with objects, playing with jewelry, adjusting clothing, or brushing invisible lint off your shirt. On the surface, it looks like nothing. But in reality, it's her body finding small, acceptable excuses to make contact, to bridge the gap between your space and hers. There's a sweetness to it too. Imagine sitting next to her, and as the evening grows colder, she leans against your shoulder. Maybe she doesn't say a word, but her body says everything. I want to be near you, I want to feel you, I want this closeness. That's not just comfort, it's craving dressed as casual affection. I remember another story of a woman who couldn't stop adjusting her hair every time she was near a man she liked. Not only was she fidgeting, but each time she adjusted her hair, her hand would graze his arm, as though it was the most natural thing in the world. He said it took him a while to notice, but once he did, he realized she had been finding ways to touch him all along. It was her unspoken way of showing desire. Of course, as with everything, context matters. A quick handshake, a high five, or a polite hug isn't always attraction. But when the touch repeats, when it lingers, when it comes with eye contact or a smile that holds just a little too long, that's when you know. Her body is speaking to yours. The lesson here is simple but powerful. Don't ignore the language of touch. When a woman's body is craving you, it will reach out in small but meaningful ways. It may be a brush, a graze, a nudge, or a lingering hand. It may seem accidental at first, but the more you notice, the more you realize it's deliberate. And in that moment, you're not just experiencing casual contact. You're experiencing connection. Attraction doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers through fingertips. Sometimes it hides in a playful push or a gentle brush of the hand. And if you learn to listen to those whispers, you'll discover truths that words might never reveal. Because in the end, when she touches you more than she needs to, when she lingers longer than she has to, it's not just touch. It's her body's way of saying, I crave you, I want you, I can't help but reach for you. And that is a language you should never ignore. Have you ever been close enough to someone that you could hear their breathing change? It's subtle, it's quiet, but it speaks louder than words ever could. Breathing is one of those things we rarely pay attention to, yet it's the most honest part of our body. We can fake a smile, we can rehearse words, we can even control our posture for a while, but our breath, it betrays us every single time, and when a woman is craving you, her breath will tell you what she might be too shy, too guarded, or too careful to say out loud. Imagine this, you're sitting across from her, the conversation is light, you're laughing, maybe teasing each other a little. Then you lean in just slightly, close enough to bridge some of that invisible space between you. In that instant, her breath shifts. Maybe it deepens, maybe it quickens, maybe it pauses for half a beat longer than it should. And you feel it, that subtle change in the air. That's not random. That's her body responding to your presence. Breathing is tied directly to emotion. When we're anxious, our breath gets shallow. When we're calm, it slows. When we're excited, it quickens, and when we're attracted, when desire sneaks in, our breath betrays that too. She might not even realize it's happening, but her body does. That's the magic of it. Let me share a story. A man once told me about a time he was talking with a woman he'd known for a while, someone he always suspected liked him but had never been sure. One night, they found themselves sitting close on a couch, just the two of them. The TV was on in the background, but neither of them was really watching. He leaned in, just slightly, to whisper something to her, and that's when he heard it. Her breathing shifted. It was deeper, heavier, like her body was suddenly aware of every inch of space between them. He said it was in that moment, not because of anything she said, not because of anything she did, but because of the way her breath changed, that he finally knew she wanted him. Now, think about how intimate breathing really is. It's the sound of life itself. We don't share it consciously with everyone, but when you're close enough to notice, it creates a bond. And when that bond changes because of attraction, it becomes impossible to ignore. If you've ever been in a quiet room with someone you're drawn to, you know the feeling. Every inhale and exhale becomes amplified. It's like the silence carries weight, and suddenly, breathing itself feels charged with meaning. But it doesn't stop there. Along with her breathing, pay attention to her voice. A woman's voice is one of the most revealing instruments of her desire. When she's craving you, her tone shifts. Sometimes it softens, becoming lower, almost husky, as though she's unconsciously drawing you in with the intimacy of sound. Other times, it gets lighter, more playful, dancing on the edge of laughter because attraction makes her giddy. Either way, her voice stops being neutral. It adapts to the chemistry in the air. There's something enchanting about how a voice changes in these moments. Have you ever noticed how someone sounds different when they're speaking to a group versus when they're speaking just to you? Attraction sharpens that difference. With you, her words might come slower, her tone a little warmer, her laughter a little longer. And it's not calculated. It's her body's way of letting her desire slip through her vocal cords. I remember another story about a woman who would always tease her friend whenever they hung out. At first, he thought she was just naturally playful. But over time, he realized her voice dropped every time she spoke to him directly, even when the group was laughing around them. Her tone carried a softness it didn't carry with anyone else. She didn't even realize she was doing it, but he did, and once he noticed, he understood. Her body was speaking through her voice, telling him she was craving that closeness. Breathing and voice are tied to our nervous system, and when attraction kicks in, the nervous system lights up, her heart rate increases, her body temperature rises, and her breath naturally shifts to keep up. That's why when you move closer, you might hear her inhale more sharply or exhale more slowly. That's why her words might stumble for a second, or why she might laugh a little more nervously than usual. It's not weakness, it's chemistry playing its game. There's also the pause. Sometimes when desire is strong, she might pause mid-sentence, her breath catching for just a fraction of a second. It's like her body needs to reset, like she's trying to steady herself in the gravity of your presence. That pause, that moment when the air hangs heavy between you, is one of the clearest signs you'll ever get. What makes this so beautiful is how unconscious it all is. She doesn't plan it, she doesn't rehearse it, she couldn't stop it even if she wanted to. Breathing and voice are primal. They cut through the layers of social masks and politeness. They reveal her truth in the most natural way possible. That's why, if you're truly paying attention, you'll learn more from the sound of her breath and the tone of her voice than from any words she speaks. But there's a responsibility here too. Just because you notice her breathing change, just because her voice softens when she speaks to you, doesn't mean you should assume or rush. Respect is key. Attraction is powerful, but it deserves patience. Let her breath, her tone, her subtle shifts draw you in naturally without forcing what isn't ready. Think about the last time you were close enough to someone that silence felt louder than words. Think about how their breath filled that silence, how their voice carried weight beyond the words themselves. That's the space where desire lives, not in loud declarations, but in the quiet shifts of rhythm, tone, and air. So next time you're with her, pay attention. Notice if her breath quickens when you lean closer. Notice if her voice drops lower when she says your name. Notice if she laughs just a little more when you're the one speaking. These are not accidents, they are signals, they are confessions wrapped in sound and silence. Attraction doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it sighs, sometimes it hides in a laugh, a pause, or the way her chest rises and falls when you step into her space. And when you notice it, when you really tune in, you'll realize her body has been telling you the truth all along. Because in the end, her breath and her voice can't lie. And when they change around you, when they bend and break and soften just for you, it's because her body is craving you loudly, even in silence. Have you ever wondered why some conversations feel like they should have ended long ago, yet neither of you wants to walk away? It's like time stretches, the world fades into the background, and you both linger in a bubble that only the two of you can feel. That's not just good conversation. That's chemistry, desire, and something much deeper. When a woman is craving you, one of the clearest signs is that she won't want the interaction to end. She'll hold onto the moment, stretch it out, lean closer into your space as though her body is magnetized to yours, and suddenly everything feels heavier with meaning. Picture this, you're standing outside after an evening together. Maybe the dinner's long finished, maybe the music's faded, maybe it's late and the street is quiet, but instead of saying goodnight and heading her way, she lingers. She asks you one more question, even if it's small. She comments on the night sky, even though she could have just gone home. Her body doesn't step back, her feet don't turn away. Instead, she leans in, her posture telling you, I don't want this to end. That's not casual, that's craving disguised as conversation. I once heard a man describe how he realized a woman he liked was interested in him long before she admitted it. They would talk on the phone, and every time they said their goodbyes, it never ended there. She would pause, then add, oh, one more thing, or laugh and find another topic to bring up. What he realized later was this: she wasn't clinging to the conversation because she needed to. She was holding on because she didn't want to let him go. The call wasn't about words anymore. It was about presence. It was about closeness. That's what craving looks like. The leaning in part is even more telling. People don't lean into those they don't want to be near. Leaning is primal. It's the body's way of collapsing distance, of surrendering to attraction. When she leans toward you while you speak, even when she doesn't have to, it's her body's way of saying, I want more of you. Closer, nearer. Sometimes it's so subtle you barely notice. The way her shoulder dips in your direction, the way her chin tilts toward your face. Other times it's obvious, like when she rests her arm near yours or shifts her entire frame closer without a second thought. But whether subtle or clear, the message is the same. There's something about leaning in that goes beyond attraction. It signals comfort, safety, and trust. A woman won't lean into someone she doesn't feel secure around. So when she does, when her posture breaks the barrier of space and moves toward you, it's not just about desire. It's about a deeper comfort, the kind that allows her to let her guard down. Think about the last time you sat across from someone in a crowded room. Did you notice how some people stay rigid, keeping space between you, while others almost melt into your presence? That melting, that slow collapse of distance, is her body craving closeness. And closeness, whether through conversation or posture, is one of the strongest signals of attraction. Let me tell you another story. A man once shared how he and a woman he liked went out for coffee. The cafe was busy, noisy, full of chatter and clinking cups. At first, they sat across the table from each other. But as the conversation deepened, she leaned closer, not once, not twice, but throughout the entire conversation. Every time he spoke, she tilted forward, elbows on the table, eyes locked on him, her face inching closer into his space. By the end of that coffee, he said, it felt like there was no table between them at all. The cafe was still noisy, but in their little circle of closeness, it was as though the world had gone silent. That's the magic of leaning in. It creates a private universe between two people, even in the middle of chaos. The lingering, too, carries its own weight. Women don't stay in conversations they don't want. If she's bored, she'll find an excuse, check her phone, or politely make her exit. But if she's craving you, she will stretch the moment. She will keep asking, keep laughing, keep circling back to something you said just so the interaction lasts longer. It's not about the words, it's about you. She's holding onto your energy, unwilling to let it go just yet. Sometimes it's not even conversation at all. Sometimes it's silence that lingers. You've said what you needed to say, the topic has run its course, yet she stays. She doesn't move, doesn't turn away. She leans in, lets the silence hang, and still doesn't leave. That silence, heavy and full, is often louder than words. It's her body saying, I want to be here with you, even if we say nothing at all. Science supports this too. When two people are attracted, their bodies unconsciously mimic each other. If you lean in, she leans in. If you stay longer, she stays longer. This is called mirroring, and it's one of the clearest indicators of connection. Attraction makes us linger. It makes us lean. It makes us unwilling to break the spell of presence. There's a beauty in how quiet these signs are. No fireworks, no grand declarations, just small moments that carry enormous meaning. A conversation stretched longer than it needed to. A pause at the end of a night that could have ended earlier. A body that shifts closer instead of away. These are the whispers of craving, the subtle ways desire speaks without a single word. But here's the key. If you notice these signs, honor them. Don't rush. Don't break the moment. If she lingers, let her. If she leans in, meet her halfway. Attraction thrives in patience, in allowing the energy to build naturally. Sometimes the most powerful connections are not in the kiss, not in the touch, but in the moments before. When two people hover on the edge of closeness, both holding on a little longer than necessary. So the next time you're with her, pay attention. Notice if she stretches the conversation just to keep you near. Notice if her body angles closer, if her frame collapses the space between you. Notice if silence feels less like an ending and more like an invitation. Because when she lingers, when she leans in, she's not just enjoying your company. Her body is telling you, clear as day, I crave this connection. I crave you, and once you learn to hear that, you'll never mistake it again. Have you ever noticed how people act when they're nervous around someone they like? Suddenly, the calmest person in the room starts fidgeting with their clothes, twisting a strand of hair, or laughing at things that aren't even that funny. It's as if their body betrays the calm image they want to project. And here's the curious part. When a woman's body is craving you, nervous energy often shows up disguised as playfulness. She doesn't sit still. She doesn't act like she's in total control. Instead, her body becomes a little restless, her movements a little exaggerated, her laughter a little lighter. What you're really seeing is chemistry, bubbling under the surface, too strong to contain neatly. Picture this, you're sitting with her at a restaurant, both of you enjoying a meal. She's listening to you speak, nodding, smiling, but her hands won't stop moving. She plays with her straw, spins her ring, or brushes invisible dust off the table. At first, you think it's just a habit, but then you notice. It happens every time you lean in closer. Every time you hold her gaze for just a second too long, her hands grow restless, her body energy rising. That's not coincidence. That's her attraction leaking out through movement. Playful nervous energy has a very particular feel to it. It isn't the tense, uncomfortable kind of nervousness that makes someone want to run away. It's the opposite. It's the kind that makes her want to stay, even though her body is buzzing with excitement. It's why she might giggle when she doesn't need to, or why she might tease you for no reason at all. Her mind is looking for an outlet, and it comes out in playful gestures that carry far more meaning than they appear to. Let me share a story. A man once told me about a woman he worked with. They were colleagues, and for a long time, he thought she saw him only as a friend. But then he noticed something odd. Every time they stood close to each other, she would touch her necklace, spin her pen, or smooth her skirt. She never did this with anyone else. It wasn't nervousness in the sense of fear. It was nervousness born from attraction. And when she finally confessed she liked him, it all made sense. Her restless movements had been her body's way of channeling the energy she couldn't keep inside. The lip bite is another classic sign. It seems small, maybe even accidental, but biting or tugging at the lip is often a subconscious release of nervous tension. When she does it while looking at you, it's even more telling. Her body is balancing between restraint and desire, between holding back and letting go. It's playful, but it's charged. It's not about needing something to do. It's about her body expressing what words can't quite capture. Hair, touching is another one of those signals. When she runs her fingers through her hair, twirls it, or brushes it back repeatedly, it's not always vanity. More often than not, it's nervous energy trying to escape. Think of it like this: attraction is building inside her like steam in a kettle. Her body needs small ways to release that pressure, and fidgeting becomes the outlet. The difference is, when it's directed at you, it comes with softness, with smiles, with little glances that tie the movement back to the chemistry between you. Playful nervous energy also shows in the way she reacts to your jokes or teasing. She might laugh more than usual, not because the joke was the funniest thing she's ever heard, but because her body is looking for release. Laughter becomes the valve that lets her attraction out without saying it directly. And the more she laughs, the more she touches, the more she fidgets, the clearer it becomes. She's not just enjoying herself, she's craving the connection. I remember another story of a man who realized this during a long drive with a woman he was seeing. He noticed she kept playing with the seatbelt strap, adjusting the volume on the radio, tapping her fingers against the door. At first, he thought she was just restless from the road. But then he noticed that every time he brushed her hand accidentally while shifting gears, her movements picked up. The touch amplified her energy, and suddenly he realized her nervous playfulness wasn't boredom, it was attraction. Her body was dancing with the feeling of being so close to him. Science has something to say about this too. When someone is attracted, their nervous system enters a state of heightened arousal. It's not the fear-based fight or flight, but rather an excited, anticipatory state. Heart rate increases, blood flow changes, and the body needs somewhere to put all that energy. For women, that often means fidgeting, playing, teasing, anything to channel the rush of feelings inside. Here's the beauty of it: playful nervous energy is often the most honest form of attraction. Words can be carefully chosen, eye contact can be intentional, but restless movements are rarely controlled. When she can't keep her hands still, when she bites her lip without realizing, when she laughs at the smallest things, it's her body speaking louder than her mind, and there's something sweet about it too. That energy, that restlessness, is vulnerability in disguise. It's her body admitting, you make me feel something I can't completely hide. And instead of pushing you away, she stays. She leans into the feeling, even if it makes her a little jittery. That willingness to stay, to linger in the buzz of nervous excitement, is one of the clearest signs that her body is craving you. So, what should you do when you notice it? The answer is simple: be present. Don't rush, don't mock, don't push. Appreciate the playfulness for what it is. A confession without words. If she teases you, tease her back. If she fidgets, let her. If she laughs too much, laugh with her. The goal isn't to call it out or make herself conscious. It's to honor the moment and let the attraction breathe. Think of it like music. Her nervous energy is the rhythm playing in the background. It's not loud, it's not obvious, but it sets the tone for everything. When you tune into that rhythm, you understand her in a way most people would miss. And in that understanding, you deepen the connection. So next time you see her fidget with her necklace, or bite her lip mid-sentence, or laugh a little too much when you're around, don't dismiss it as nothing. Recognize it for what it is. Her body's way of telling you that your presence stirs her, excites her, makes her crave more of you. Because attraction doesn't always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like nervous fingers, restless movements, and playful laughter that fills the air between you. And if you pay attention, you'll realize, in that nervous energy lies the purest truth. She doesn't just enjoy you, she craves you, and there you have it. 6 undeniable signs that when a woman is around you, her body isn't just present, it's craving you. Once you start noticing these little whispers, you'll realize desire speaks louder than words, if only you pay attention. Now, here's my question for you. Have you ever caught one of these signs in real life? Maybe that lingering glance, that playful touch, or that nervous little laugh that told you she wanted more. I'd love to hear your story, so drop it in the comments below. If this opened your eyes, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the real secrets are in the details, and the next video might just reveal something you've always wondered about but never dared to ask. Until then, keep watching closely. Desire is everywhere.